In social and emotional learning this week, we're focusing on relationships leading up to Valentine's Day. We wanted to have students think about the sum of their relationships in a similar way as they would think of their diet. The objectives were three. Realize how important relationships are. Notice how healthy our relationships are. Think about how we can help improve the relationships within our groups. We began by asking ourselves, how important is money in having a long, happy, and healthy life? Is it something that helps? Is it totally irrelevant? Or are we somewhere along the middle? Most students realize that some money at least does matter. Just how much money is that? Beyond what level of revenue does additional money no longer give us significant extra happiness? We gave them four options. The two extremes: money has nothing to do with happiness, infinity, you will always be happier with more money. Or in the middle, 75,000 about 10 years ago, maybe today in San Francisco that would be 100,000, or about 1,000,000. We mentioned a TED Talk. Here are some excerpts.
Since 1938, we've tracked the lives of two groups of men. The first group started in the study when they were sophomores at Harvard College. And the second group that we've followed was a group of boys from Boston's poorest neighborhoods. We interview them in their living rooms. We get their medical records from their doctors. We draw their blood. We scan their brains. We talk to their children. We videotape them talking with their wives about their deepest concerns. What are the lessons that come from the tens of thousands of pages of information that we've generated? Well, the lessons aren't about wealth or fame or working harder and harder. The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period.
Next, I asked them to think about which kinds of relationships they have and value. We saw that most of the little hearts end up at parents and siblings and friends. I didn't expect as many to end up on themselves. I asked them to position an icon on the category that most represents the sum of their relationships at the moment. And I explained that in my own lifetime, I have been on practically each one of these categories. Hopefully, we will spend as much of our life as possible in the healthy category, where relationships are good and we're getting the interactions that we need. Today with COVID, many of us are in the not enough category, where the relationships are good, but we need far more interaction than we are getting. And then we have at different times been in positions where relationships were bland or superficial. Very often when we've moved to a new place and we're establishing relationships from scratch. And unfortunately, there are periods of our lives where we end up in environments or in relationships that can be a little bit unhealthy or even toxic. Students thankfully answered in bulk that they are in the healthy category or in the not enough, that relationships are in general good. How can we help the dynamics within the class? So I wanted to give them an example of a class or a mini pod where you would have two pairs of friends that are very close to each other, another couple of people that are somewhat connected to one or two, and someone who is isolated. And all of this to ask them how they visualize their relationships and how they might improve them. So here's what they had to say. Here's an example, another example. They tried for most of them to answer quite thoughtfully and artistically. I hope that the analogy of a diet is one that is memorable for the students as they move through life and try to maintain a diet of relationships that is just as healthy as their nutritional diet.